All right, good evening, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are privileged to gather on the traditional territory of the Kwakwa-speaking peoples. So before we adopt the agenda, I'd just like to add a couple of items and then look for council if there's any additions or amendments. So Tassos has a letter for us under 5C. I'm going to give him a few minutes under petitions and delegations, and just so you know that normally during the meeting when the letter comes up is not when we have interaction. So I'll put you on there because you've requested to under delegations, and then we'll get to your letter a little bit later. Okay? Great. So that'll be under 3, and then under 10C, we're going to put youth employment funding. And are there any other additions to the agenda from council? Ryan, and are you guys okay? Okay.
I'm sorry. You asked me a question, Gab?
I was just wondering if you had any additions to the agenda.
I don't actually. Thank you, though.
Okay. So seeing none, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? I'll motion it. Motion. Okay, great. All those in favor? Opposed? And did we lose Ryan? Okay, we'll wait just a second for Ryan to come back to us. Nothing happened.
Oh, his video is off.
He's still there?
Yeah, looks like it.
I don't see his name on there.
Third one down.
Oh, okay. There he is. Okay, great. Sorry. Okay, so under 3 petitions and delegations, Tassos, if you'd like to speak to your letter.
Yeah, sure. If you guys have any questions more than anything, that's why I kind of showed up and wrote you guys if you have any questions why I wrote the letter more than anything. Anybody? Okay. As you guys read in my letter, and again, please don't get this wrong. I have no problems with food trucks coming in for me on this and that. Being a business owner for me, I'm just saying that because of the way that our community went in the last 12 months, I'm just kind of asking, like, if we can just postpone any kind of other business licenses being approved for this community, just till 2021. We're finally getting a chance to actually get our heads above water. The COVID's still like most of us are shut down because of it. It's just a tough one for me because it's how do I explain it? It's a food truck coming in for me meal. Some of the restaurants and other bars haven't opened, and we're finally actually with after the strike happened, we finally got our heads above water, and also we got shut down with COVID. And more than anything, just asking if we can just kind of think of it as from a business side of things. I understand the town, you want to generate your revenue and so forth, but if we can just cool off for another 8 months, just to give some of the other businesses a chance to generate a bit of revenue. Like myself, I have 20 employees, and I haven't only brought back 10 of them. And I'd like to actually get all employed again. I mean, I've been paying property taxes here since '97 for our business, and I have between $8,000 to $10,000 a year. And I get it. A food truck's coming in; they don't have property taxes to pay, but $80 a year isn't going to really affect the community if we're doing that. If we're taking business from another restaurant or a pub or a coffee shop or anything like that. And again, my letter more than anything is just asking if we can just hold off for another, like I said, 8 months before you guys approve any kind of business license for me, because it's kind of hard for us to recoup if there's another business coming into town right now. Again, nothing against food trucks. Please don't think that. I like food trucks. I eat them a lot. I'm just thinking about our community. It's like, honestly, I wouldn't want to see a baby tackle truck go across the way from Timberland or Strawberry Marine right now, especially with what we're all going through with the summer. No international tourism, none of the people from America coming out. It's just going to be a tough sell for everybody to keep everybody employed. Is what it is. Like myself, when we were shut down with COVID, I was barely making 10% of my revenue take on delivery. Right now, I'm only looking at 50% capacity is what they want us at. Well, I'm allowed 140 seats. I only got 35 people more for me. And I know other restaurants are struggling as well, and other businesses have been struggling in this community as well for this. That's why I was hoping, I wanted to put it out there in case nobody else had guts to say something more than anything. I just wanted to voice my opinion more than anything, just so we're all on the same page and stuff like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I do have a question.
Yeah, of course.
Because your letter
I
talks
have to
about,
sit down.
yeah, that's okay. Your letter talks about mobile business licenses.
Yeah.
But I hear you saying all businesses, so are you asking?
No,
just
no,
for
no, no.
mobile?
Sorry, I know I got the same mobile. Sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
That's just me nervous when I speak about it, that's all.
Any questions for Tassos before we go ahead? Mr. Burgess, sorry.
Oh, shit, this is my-
Go ahead,
Mr.
Shelley.
Lewis is my dad.
No, I read your letter and I understand the intent and the spirit behind it.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I'm
sorry,
so
Shelley. I think you have to. Does Shelley have to speak a little louder for you guys to hear? Okay, so just a touch.
I understand the spirit intent behind your letter. So when I read it and I thought about your business in particular and then some of the others, I had to wonder because the mobile business license is food and beverage and only those.
Yeah.
So mobile bait and tackle truck. will
I was just
show up,
using it as an
or
example. I was just sorry, I'm using it as an example,
a
yeah.
clothing business or stuff like that, right? But what it made me think about is my son and his family. So my son and his wife would be a patron of your establishment, but that's not a place that they would take their children to. So I see that a food truck could be complimentary for family outings to go and be able to partake in something,
Almost that.
especially because right now seating is constrained in many restaurants and facilities right now. So that's kind of how I was looking at it. It was an opportunity for people in the community who can't attend or can't go into certain situations, either by numbers or by age restrictions.
No, definitely, of
Then
course.
it could be complimentary.
And then I agree with you. I mean, I myself, I've got 4 kids, and it's tough for me to go into restaurants right now and stuff like that. And there's 4, 5, 6, 7 of us, right? If they have their friends come, and I totally understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to get at is like our community is. We struggled for 9 months with the strike. Let's be honest. I just lost the bar. I just did, honestly. And then we finally started moving forward a bit, and then COVID shut us down. So the second we got a little bit of revenue, it's gone. I had to lay off all my employees and generate. And again, I don't get me wrong. I love the idea of a food truck. I do. I eat at them all the time. But I'm just thinking for our community, for our restaurants, and stuff like just giving us a chance to recoup some of our loss before anything else gets approved for another certain like a restaurant or somewhere to eat. Again, it's just my opinion, right? I just wanted to let everybody know what it was. So,
Thank you, Tassos.
no, not
I
a problem.
appreciate it.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate you guys listening to me. So.
Any other questions for Tassos? Okay, so seeing none then, thank you very much.
I don't regret it.
Yeah, well, unless you want to stay for the discussion.
No, so you guys do think. I just wanted to be in person when I was talking to you.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, item 4A, adoption of minutes for May 26th. So moved, Councillor Cole, seconded by? Okay, Councillor Downey, oh, good, no, we'll give it to, you can't see names here, that is so beneficial to me.
It's on left-hand corner.
Oh, okay, I just can't see. Councillor Baron. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. All right, item 5A, email from Miranda Keys requesting consideration of amending the animal control bylaw to include 2 to 5 backyard hens. So move for discussion, please. Yeah. Second it. Okay. So Baron, go ahead. Thoughts, council? Councillor Barron? Go ahead.
Sure.
And Councillor Cole.
So the report to staff, or report from staff to council, what the recommendation is, if I'm understanding this right, is basically we would direct staff to go and see what other municipalities have done as far as how they've, because I'm kind of confused. Are we trying to amend 663, or are we looking to put something completely new in, or is that's up for us to decide, Pete? Is that kind of where we're at, or?
Thank you. Councillor Barron, we are looking for direction from council. So the recommendation is that if council would like to see changes to the animal control bylaw, these are the steps that we would take to either give you further information or to move forward towards changing that bylaw.
So could someone motion tonight to actually strike poultry from that 2.2 and put 2.3 a limit, or, and this is my ignorance, I'm sorry, or does it has to come back in an actual bylaw format?
Yes, it would have to come back in an actual bylaw format, an amendment to the animal control bylaw.
Okay, can I ask my B question?
Yes, go ahead.
I understand that the bees are under the nuisance bylaw.
Oh, I thought you meant B as in a second question.
Oh, sorry. I mean buzz.
Okay, sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Or I guess they have one antenna. I don't know. So again, that would be the same thing. The nuisance bylaw would have to be changed to say allow one hive, same as this would have to be changed to take out poultry and say 5 chickens or something with no rooster. Is that kind of what we're thinking?
Well, I guess it's up to whatever council would like to, however council would like to amend the bylaw, and so how we would direct staff. And it would, correct me if I'm wrong, but would we necessarily need public consultation to amend the bylaw?
There's no requirement under the community charter to have public consultation, so it would be up to council's desires whether you wanted to have that consultation process.
Councillor Cole and then Councillor Mitchell. And then, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to say this crossed our desk before and we thought we would delay it for the OCP, but obviously that's not happening anytime quick, so I think we should make a decision on this and request a report from staff that would outline, I think, the wording and stuff, and then we could decide from there whether to send it back or do a first reading maybe next meeting.
Okay. Councillor Mitchell and then Councillor Downey. You're still muted, no? There you go. Oh.
Ah, there we go. Sorry about that. I think it's a great idea, first of all, to allow people to keep a few chickens. It just makes good sense. And I think we could trust that staff could perhaps draft the change to the bylaw, and rather than doing a separate report and dragging it out for another meeting, draft the bylaw. And you can obviously do some review of other municipalities in doing that draft. And if we want to make some changes at the draft stage, I think that would make more sense than spending a bunch of time doing a report and then having to come back in a month and have a bylaw to deal with. Because these folks would probably like to get some chickens. We would like to do it maybe before winter sets in.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Downey?
My thought was, like I'm hearing on the table, I don't see the necessity for staff to go and find out what other communities are doing. Browning and Piper did a fantastic job of polling the area on their own. I would be in favor of asking staff to amend the bylaw, amend the current bylaw to allow for 2 or 3 chickens. There may be, and maybe we could consider whether we want this on a trial basis, that we would put a timestamp on this and evaluate, at 10 months out or 12 months out. And then that could be for any community members who have concerns, then it would let them know that we are going to pay attention. And if it does prove to be a nuisance, either for rats or other animals that are drawn into the community, which is why it was always prohibited in the past, then we could address it at that time and find out whether it's really, whether those concerns were warranted or not.
Yeah, my thought is similar, maybe doing a pilot project, and we could even say, 6 people say could participate in the pilot project for, I would say a year, but I guess we'd have to find out the lifetime of the chicken first, because we wouldn't want to end the pilot project before the life of the chicken. So yeah, I would be okay with that. The other thing for council to consider as well is the staff time that it'll take away from them. So just putting that out there. Councillor Downey and then Councillor Cole.
With respect to staff time is why I would be in favor of making the amendment to specify deliberately 3 chickens per household. If you want to cap the number of households to be visited at a certain date, that we would just be really specific right now in the direction we give staff to rework this bylaw.
Councillor Cole.
If we want to speed this along, we could do another reading, like second, third reading down the road. So I'm really leaning in favor of a report. I agree we could just simply change it to allow poultry, but I believe a lot of other communities have fees associated with that we should consider. Bylaw visits by the bylaw officer, specs on chicken coops, et cetera, right? So for us to just say, hey, let's just strike poultry from this 2.2, I think is not as a big enough package to move on today, but for us to direct, I think it sounds like we're all kind of in favor, but we should know maybe some of the comments as well that maybe other communities have. So I feel if we get a report with the language next meeting, we can do first reading and speed up second, third, together. Like a following meeting.
What is now under COVID, we have different ways that we can read. So do you recall first, second, and third we can do in one as well as final reading?
Correct, Mayor.
Oh, okay.
So with the proper report, we could expedite this and not really slow things down too much.
Go ahead, Councillor Barron.
Have we had any reports into the town office for concerns for people who might already have chickens in the town of Port McNeill?
Councillor Barron through Mayor Wickstrom. No, we haven't had any bylaw enforcement complaints about poultry in the community.
And then my other question was, would it be kind of any advantage that not so much a permit, but if we're kind of considering a trial period, that people actually have to register their chickens, not to have a dog licensing kind of thing, but just so that we know where the chickens are, so that we could cross-reference it to like the conservation officer Adams, would be able to come back and say, hey, actually, I'll use my street on Quatsino, we've had 15 bear reports that we've never had before, and we actually know that there's 16 people that have chickens on the street. Like, are we thinking from that perspective, or?
I guess that would be however we would want the bylaw crafted. And it would be easy enough if it was a pilot project and say 6 people, 5 people applied, then we would know exactly where they are. Yeah, and then I know that I gave one chicken bylaw from a community to our CAO, Mr. Nelson Smith. Yeah, I'm sure that there's others that are available. That would be easy enough to bring those at the time that the report is done. Okay. Did you want to add anything? I see you're unmuted, Councillor Mitchell. You're already unmuted.
I'm sorry, you're asking me a question. Try that again.
Yeah, I was just asking you if I saw you were unmuted, if you had something you wanted to add.
Oh, no, actually, I said what I wanted to say. I think we should move forward with it. I guess I'm going to wait for somebody else to come up with a motion.
Did you want to?
Sure.
Okay, just a second. Are you going to bring it up on the screen to type it out? So Laura's going to give it a try here. She doesn't have a second screen, so we're just going to see. Can you guys see this? Screen sharing?
Oh, yes.
Not yet.
Type in it while I'm
Just one moment.
Oh, now where to go?
It's okay. We're just working this out because she only has one monitor. There we go. Okay. Go ahead.
Probably copy and paste this from CAO's wonderful report here. I would like to make a motion to direct staff to prepare a report to council on findings of pros and cons from other municipalities allowing backyard chickens.
And can we add and to provide sample bylaws?
Yes. With a draft bylaw. Sample.
Input from other
I
members of
think
council?
to ask for a draft bylaw.
Are you open to, I would ask for a draft bylaw to accompany the report.
So direct staff to prepare a report to council on pros and cons of other municipalities on backyard chickens and provide a draft bylaw.
Could we add bees in there?
Chickens and bees.
Any separate motion?
Yeah.
I don't know, would it be a separate motion or?
Yeah, we'll do a separate motion on that, yeah.
It just seems like if we're spending the time to do the chickens, you might as well ask about the bees at the same time.
The birds and the bees. Sorry. I couldn't help myself.
Can we just add, provide a draft bylaw on allowing chickens?
Yeah.
If you're reading it from
Yeah.
afar. Backyard chicken.
Is it missing a word?
I'm just going to direct staff to prepare a report to council on pros and cons of other municipalities allowing backyard chickens instead of on. And provide draft bylaw on, oh, that's allowings twice, darn it.
It should just be on backyard chickens.
Yes.
Some don't allow it.
That's right,
Or
okay.
it's just salads.
So take this
Back to on, okay. Is council okay with that as written, or sorry, as the?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Councillor Downey. Any discussion on the motion? So seeing,
I just want to say one thing, we do have a cat license. That I look at.
well, we can have that discussion when we get to the
Yes.
bylaw, probably be good. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, then second, Councillor Barron, would you like to make a suggestion on the wording for the bee bylaw, or adding bees to the bylaw?
The same as the one above, except in place of chickens, bees.
Just copy and paste, yeah. That's okay. All right, a seconder,
I'll second that.
okay? Any discussion on bees? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay,
I'll fun with that one, Bill. Birds and bees.
birds and the bees, yeah. I can hardly-
It writes itself.
We know that's gonna write itself, Bill. Okay, let's go to item 5B, email from Leanne Masterman regarding the 2020 North Island Secondary graduation events. So I'm looking for a motion to ratify our email decision to allow the grads to use Fernie Clock area on Saturday for photos after their parade.
So moved.
Okay, seconder? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. All right. 5C, letter from Gus's Bar and Grill regarding the approval of business license for mobile food truck. Move for discussion. Move for discussion. Seconder on that. Councillor Cole. Okay. Great. All right, Council. Who would like to wade into the discussion first?
I'd like to clarify something. The delegate, Tassels had said it was, she thought it was a $100 fee, but it's a $300 fee, and it does include merchandise. That's under the
Yes.
I just want to clarify that. I'm interested to hear what else is in it.
Under 3.5 of that bylaw, it says food and beverages only. So I'm bringing it up right now.
Schedule A.
Yeah, it seems rather contradictory. Yeah, but it does seem a little contradictory. I spoke with our CAO, Mr. Nelson Smith, earlier today, and it says the entire stock, goods, ware, merchandise, or foodstuffs under bulk mobile business. But then when you look at 3.5, it does say mobile stand or mobile vending, push cart, is food and beverage only. So it is it does seem a little. Oh, sorry, 3.4.
The caption is mobile stores, mobile restaurants, mobile vending, push cart.
Anyway. I'll wade in first. Why not? Yeah, this is a tough one. I do understand where Mr. Burtis is coming from. The thing that I noted is that this has been in effect, this bylaw, since 1997. That's one thing. And then the other, while I understand his concerns, I'm wondering how fair it is to those who might have already come into the town to make inquiries. I know that I've spoken to 3 people, probably it's the same that may possibly have come into the town, I'm not sure. So what if those people are in the background going along, doing whatever, and then the last thing now is to get a license, and they come into the town office when they've been told they have that license, and then they don't have a license. That's one concern that I have. And then the other thing is, you know, what's stopping a business, another restaurant from opening up? It would still create the same hardship for Mr. Burtis as possibly a food truck cart. Though I think that they're very different and would attract very different clientele. That's my 2 cents. Anybody else like to go ahead, Councillor Mitchell?
Yes, I feel that we shouldn't be stifling competition or stifling somebody setting up a business. There's nothing to stop Gus's Pub from setting up a mobile food truck on their own property. If that's what they want to do, they can apply for a license to do it and compete directly with somebody who might be doing the same thing down the street. So we can't be, I don't believe we should be involved in protecting or interfering in the marketplace at that level. There's a bylaw there. It states out what's permitted, and to rewrite the bylaw to change what's permitted, that's pretty tall order.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Downey?
I'm okay with the bylaw currently as it stands. And my thought is that food truck, if somebody was to come to town, we don't have one now, and there has been no license even issued. So maybe there's some legwork going on. I don't know where that's at. But as you've said, this bylaw has been in place since 1997. And I see a food truck as being complementary to add service, another service to the town. there are businesses in this town that some, they just will not be frequented by families or certain people, and food truck may be attractive to them. So I don't actually see a food truck as direct competition to our restaurants. I see it actually as complementary.
Councillor Cole?
Thank you. Yeah, my problem with the bylaw is the $300 fee, frankly, for mobile businesses. And trying to be fair for all business, that's hardly fair. I mean, with the fee schedule, if you're employing over 51 people, you pay $300. You have one person in the cart's going to pay $300. I think that was put in there at a time to discourage food carts. I don't think it's fair business at all. I was always under the assumption that the fee was there if you were going to be on public land. That's not the case. If a commercial property owner has the property zoned properly for those type of sales, who are we to stop them? What is the difference then the mobile fruit stand in the parking lot and the bricks and mortar gift shop right there? Why should the gift shop pay $50? 5 steps away on the same property that business person paid $300. And the taxation argument really doesn't hold up because the person who runs the commercial property presumably will get rent or just let somebody do it, or whatever the case may be. And generally, commercial properties are valued based on their income. It's a big factor. So technically, that should cover any sort of tax inequity. I don't see. So I really struggle with. If we're going to try to go for more of a fair playing field in our business dealings, that this fee from 20 plus years ago is really not keeping with the times, regardless if food trucks are a good idea or not. And I do want to point out that with COVID, things are going outside. So we may have mobile vendors. The way I read this, I cannot have a vendor come on commercial property to when I own. Yet my bricks and mortar person could bring tables out of the parking lot and have a flea market. That's fine. But the way I read this,
Why can you not?
because it's a separate business. If you're selling out of your existing business, there's no restrictions saying you can't spill in the parking lot. But for a separate business, we're not allowed to have. It says right here. Merchandise. So that's the definition of a mobile business. So I would really like to see a report on this fee. Not only to say that that's unreasonable at this point. Depends what other communities are doing, but I don't see as I'll ask our CAO, is there extra processing and work that goes involved with a mobile business issuing a business license? I kind of know like all the health stuff is separate. Concern of ours. So is there extra workload that would justify this fee in your opinion?
Councillor Cole, not a lot of extra work would go into it. We do need to verify that they have a clean bill of health through the health officer. We do have with restaurants as well that are applying for business licenses if they're new. We would also ensure that it's okay with the property owner that the mobile business is going to be operating on. Not everybody always is honest about where they're going, so we like to double check that the property owner is aware. So there is a little bit of extra legwork that does go into it.
This, just wondering if council would entertain this. We've already put our business licenses out, other than the mobile vendor, if somebody comes in. They're going to get a business in the middle of the year, but most of ours have paid already. And since it is in 1997, I think that there are a few that are probably either could be increased or leveled out home-based business, I think is a little bit more than somebody who has it. One is 65 and one is 50. It seems a little odd, some of the things. What about giving this bylaw to the Advisory Planning Commission, who at the moment is looking for something and could bring back recommendations to this, to council? What do you
Do
feel
a
about
review.
that? Do a review of them.
Most business license fees are like $100. Satisfy me. My concerns.
What I'm hearing is generally there's not an appetite to put a moratorium on the mobile license. Can we say that we're all agree? Okay, on that. So yeah, the other thing, you're saying that you feel there's some inequities. So I would think that would be something that the Advisory Planning Committee would like to sink their teeth in and could give us a recommendation back.
Can we make a motion to that effect? Direct staff to prepare or
No, to
direct
refer,
staff to refer.
we don't have to direct staff. Do we refer this, the bylaw, to the Advisory Planning Committee?
Review bylaw 491, business license regulations and fees. Make a motion to have the Advisory Planning Committee question. Review bylaw 491, 1997, business license regulations and fees.
And give recommendation.
And recommend.
And give recommendations to council.
Sure.
Or do you want to phrase differently?
Well, I would like them to specifically look at this mobile unit, but I think we just want a general review.
You have to look at, you can't
That's what I get.
you look at all or.
And report back to council.
Do you need to include that 3.4 with the other definitions that were contradictory?
It's in the bylaw, is it not?
I'm hoping our
Our
staff
liaison.
can direct
Yeah.
the APC on some of the concerns.
Do we have a liaison to the ABC, a council liaison for the Advisory Plan? or
All
not?
council is.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Did you, yeah. I mean, the last time we went through with short-term rentals, so then we gave recommendations afterwards. So you want to just put in point form just some of the items that are of specific concern, so that they might think there's nothing wrong with that when we actually wanted them to look at it.
I have to wonder, is this in with the scope and responsibilities that is the mandate letter of the APC? I look at the city bylaws that need to be revised, and we have a list of them. We've got our zoning bylaw, we've got a few of them. You know, it's great to delegate it off to somebody else, but is it their responsibility? And perhaps maybe it's time for council to establish policy meetings. And
But then we could say the same for the Harbor Advisory Committee, who we just gave all the harbor rates to review as well. So that would fall.
Is this planning?
But is this a planning
Is that
question?
true?
This is a rate structure is what we're talking about.
I'm prepared to amend that just for staff report. And then
What are you asking me to report though?
report on the, to me, the fairness of the mobile business being 6 times what
Thank you. I've just brought up the Advisory Planning Commission bylaw, so I can read what the function is. Function of the commission shall be to advise council on all matters referred to the commission from time to time by the council respecting land use, community planning, or proposed bylaw or permit that may be enacted or issued in accordance with the requirements of the local government act.
It's your pleasure, or do you want to go with
I think we
that?
need a seconder.
I'll second.
Okay, further discussion on that?
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, it should be up there. To have the Advisory Planning Commission review bylaw 491.1997 business license regulations and fees and report back to council. And it's been moved and seconded.
And this is in response to Gus's pub letter?
Well, it's expanded a little bit. That prompted it, but there's some inequities in it, and to look at the bylaws of whole.
I guess the only trouble I have with it is it's not a crisis and it doesn't fit with any of our strategic priorities. And I think maybe we should focus on them and leave this to, we're doing the official community plan. Bylaws are going to get rewritten anyway. Perhaps it could be reviewed then. That'd be my view.
Anybody else?
I have to say that it's very difficult following the conversation. I can hear Anne Marie, no problem, but everybody else is very garbled is about the best way to describe it. So it's really tough, just so you know.
Did you, can you try, that might make Anne Marie louder, but when I was at home, I tried this, and I had to put the volume up on my computer quite a bit.
Yeah, the problem is that individuals are not mic'd, and your mics are not, wherever they are not located anywhere near where you are. So there's a huge echo.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier today, where the regional district has a mic at the center of their table, and it looks like that's what we're going to have to do if we're going to be continuing these hybrids.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not much of an audio video guy. I can just tell you it's hard to hear. But anyway, so I wasn't able to follow that conversation very well. However, I'm definitely not in favor of tasking staff time for reviewing that bylaw right now based on our other priorities.
Okay. Councillor Cole?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Councillor Mitchell, that I think Council's not in favor of considering a moratorium as Tassos requested. I have some concerns of the inequity of the fees charged, and we're hoping the Advisory Planning Committee can look at it so they can work out some of the details and it won't be such a burden on staff, is the gist of the motion.
Got ya.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion? And opposed? Okay, passed. Before we continue on, you can call into Zoom. Would it help to try putting it on speaker?
Can you give me the number?
We're gonna just try something. Oh, I think I can give it to you. Just one moment. Yeah, we're just gonna try something here.
Derek turning his head like that made a big difference.
Okay.
And when Shelley was addressing the crowd, she was good. And for the most part, you've been loud, Gabby.
Okay. I can be loud. We just realized we'll get an echo if we do the other way, so we'll muddle through and make sure it's fixed for the next meeting, okay? Report 7A, Tourism Advisory Committee Report on Directional Wayfinding. Move for discussion. Councillor Downey, seconder. Councillor Barron. Okay. Would you like to lead this off, Councillor Downey?
I'll just back up. I asked for staff to put into the agenda the minutes of our meeting, just for your council's information. Our last meeting was in May. The minutes haven't been approved, and you'll see them after, in our next meeting when they're approved. So in here you've got the summation of a meeting that was held with our CAO, Pat English, and 2 members of the TAC committee and myself to discuss wayfinding signs, which that meeting prompted the report that you received last council meeting, specific to directional wayfinding signs. So I'm hoping everybody's had a chance to read through it. And so my question on behalf of the Tourism Advisory Committee is, would council want to delegate the wayfinding signs, the practicality, feasibility, strategy around it to the Tourism Advisory Committee? Or would the committee have the blessing of council to pursue that and bring something back?
Council? I do have a question while people are formulating. So the last time they were looking for possibly a hired person to do that part. So am I understanding that the Tourism Advisory Committee would be looking to do some of the legwork to get to a certain point?
So the committee is willing to do some work. We have funds that aren't going to be allocated as previously planned due to COVID, which does provide funding if we were to go out and contract somebody to be the facilitator and the coordinator on this. So we have funding there. At the same time as I say that, we're also, or would prefer, if we do get some summer students hired to the town, if the town could release one of those employees most suitable to be tasked with being the point person on this, because then we acknowledge that there will be some legwork that will have to be done. So, but so that's where it is.
So it was going to be later on in the list, but I think it's relative. It relates to this discussion now. So I had put on Tennessee Youth Employment Funding. I'm just going to let our CAO inform us on the status of that.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Staff received an email, I do believe it was Monday, yesterday, informing us that the youth employment grant that we had applied for was not provided to the town of Port McNeill. It wasn't denied for any reason. I'm assuming the funding wasn't there. I subsequently had a conversation with Port Alice, who also didn't receive any funding.
Like 0, not one student.
Not a single student. They did give us a questionnaire to fill out should funding become available, which we promptly replied to, requesting funding. And today I got a follow-up email from Bridget Horrell from Flynn Ward saying that she will keep her eyes out for any youth employment funding that may come our way.
Just on that note, Work BC, their student employment money just ran out last week as well. I just was on a call today with Bahia. So there's not an option through that, though there's a possibility of hiring a student that is a university graduate who has had part-time work for 4 to 5 years. They may qualify for some of that 50-50 funding that BC has because they've changed the guidelines a bit. Councillor Downey?
Just a question of staff. Have we ever received 0 for student funding in the past?
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, we have. In fact, we went through such a dry run. I do believe it was 2015, 16, 17 that we actually reached out to the province to find out why we were being overlooked.
Councillor Barron?
What was the reason before? Well, obviously it wasn't COVID.
I would have to look into it. Apologies.
Okay.
If I put my political hat on, I'm going to guess that because they gave a student equivalent to the CERB, that's likely why perhaps not issuing student employment funding for the summer. Been a lot of money going out the door in the last little while. Yeah,
So we have budget implications here, or is this appropriate CFO report on
yeah,
how
you
many,
know.
how many students we have for, and so council can decide to reallocate funds from the existing budget? Or?
I should have asked this earlier because the thought had come to me, haven't we reached our, just a moment, Councillor Mitchell, have we reached our,
Have we hired to
hired to our budgeted, yeah, dollars? No, thank you.
Mayor Rickstrom, there was a report released by staff, I think it was 2 meetings ago, laying out the youth employment. I do believe we still have room to hire 1 or 2 more under the Harbor Information Center budget.
While I look that up, go ahead, Councillor Mitchell, you have a question?
I just would like a bit of clarification. I understand we didn't get a grant for some students, but did we not get a grant for others?
No,
We got nothing at all for no summer students?
no, just what we had budgeted, those are the ones that we hired.
Right. So no grants at all for summer students, 0.
No, unless more money becomes available, the staff has already written to get in the queue for that.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
This is 2 or 3 meetings ago that we had. I think you're correct in that there's still a couple. Yeah.
So we're fine in that regard.
Well, providing what happens with the harbor in the summertime, because if it does pick up, we may need those people at the harbor visitor center, right?
So back to the discussion here around the wayfinding signs and hiring a student. There is provision within the tourism advisory funds to possibly be used for that project, but that will go back now that we know this for absolute certainty. I would take that information back to the advisory committee, and they will have to decide what that number or how many hours they want to attribute to this project. If council is willing to give the committee the blessing to pursue it further, to work on this project.
I support that for sure.
I would support that as well. How does, do you need a motion to? Okay, do you want to phrase it? How would we?
Could it be as simple as council supports the tourism advisory committee
To explore wayfinding, signage, and
1, 2, 3, 4.
investigating wayfinding, signage, and
Developing-
funding to execute the project. And because that would include possibly how they see us paying down the road, as well as how you're going to pay the person that will help you out.
Did you get that?
No. Okay. Council supports the Tourism Advisory Committee to explore wayfinding signage. And, what did I say? It was good. And explore funding options to execute project. Does that sound good? That's vague enough that it will capture.
Develop the overall science strategy. We're just asking to explore.
And
We want them to grab
the
it.
strategy is a big chunk of that.
Sign to
maybe it's not explore. No, keep what you've got. This is an insert up above.
Okay. It's the worst when somebody's watching you type.
Okay, up in where you've got council supports, TAC, strategizing, wayfinding, signage, and sign policy for our community, because that's
Okay.
part of it, right?
Mhm.
You know, our sign's gonna be
Sign policy for the community.
Policy and option committee. Councilor Downey, just to be clear, do you see coming out of this something for local retailers to take advantage of, like a like-minded lady sign or something, or some sort of program, co-op program, or strictly focusing on the signs on sort of public property? I would like to see the overall strategy.
The intent around that table really was to talk about signage throughout the community, so that there would be wayfinding signs along the road directing people to key attractions or shopping areas, and also in addition with that, blade signs or signage on buildings, public and private, which means we need the buy-in of the business owners, property owners in town, so that we could have a cohesive look throughout the community.
And we have no sign by law in case
There is
everyone
no
was not
sign
aware
by
of
law
that.
at all.
Okay, so would you like to read that motion and make sure it captured what you wanted, Councilor Downey?
Council supports the Tourism Advisory Committee to strategize wayfinding, signage, and a sign policy, and explore funding.
Just a comma after signage, so wayfinding signage, comma, a signage policy, and explore funding opportunities. Second for that motion? Okay, and any further discussion on that? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay.
Can I just move to receive and file reports 7B and C? Oh no, 7B, pardon me, that's the Tourism Advisory Committee meetings.
Yeah, which are all 3 minutes, January 23rd, February 20th, and April 16th.
Yes.
So moved. Seconder, Councilor Barron. Any discussion on there? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. So the other here, item 7C, list of 2020 resolutions from the regular council meetings. This is for information. Council was asking for this a few months back. Any questions on that information? Councillor Downey?
We could delete under March 10th, it says motion 041-2020. So Councillor Downey would provide further information at a later date, and that was around Chinook fishery. So we need to strike that.
Okay. I do have a question for Councillor Mitchell, actually, from this. Did you apply for MIA, Municipal Insurance Association?
I didn't qualify because of the qualifications that they had there.
Okay, great, thank you. We thought that might be the case. Okay. Old business, Canada Day event. So I brought this back to the table. Move for discussion, please. Moved and seconded by Downey and Barron. I don't know, do you write the names? Do you need the names if we moved? Okay, fine then. Depends what meeting I'm in. Okay. Okay, so a couple of meetings ago, this was brought to council, to the table for council, and I haven't received any input. So we're a few weeks away now, and was just wondering, do we want to hold a Canada Day celebration, or would we like to postpone the event for when things open up? Councilor Downey?
When this was presented to us, my understanding is that, you know, that we had options. I don't think I ever considered that we would be hosting something on Canada Day per se. I would support hosting an event later in the year.
How does the rest of council feel? Are we tied to Canada Day, or are we okay with postponing? Looks like we're all, Councilor Mitchell?
I think we should postpone it.
I think we can have one heck of a party when this is done. And the community will welcome it. I know that 2 other communities are having parades, and I can't see where we're going to spend $5,000 on a parade. But, okay, do we need a motion then to postpone? No? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, 10A, my report. Not really, if anybody has any questions, otherwise it is what it is. Okay, anybody else have a verbal report for council? No. Okay.
I just have a brief report on the ferry situation, which I'll give after you're done.
No, I'm not saying anything. It's written there. I'm assuming everybody read it, so I'm just leaving it at that today.
Oh, okay. I just wrote a few things out here. And although we're not meeting, we do get sporadic bits of information. For those who aren't aware, the Aurora is set to start service on June the 18th, now that Transport Canada has completed crewing requirement assessments. The new ferry will have identical capacity for passengers to the Quadra Queen 2, which is 150 minus the crew, so 145 passengers. Vehicle capacity will be slightly more than the Quadra Queen. The capacity can be increased if crew size is also increased. Their intention is to run it at the sea level licensing, which is the lowest number of passengers most of the time. They'll run it at A or B licensing, which would give them more passengers if the demand is there. Back in February, when they met with us, there was no mention that the new ferry would not be crewed for an increase in capacity. In fact, their press release in February stated that the capacity of the new ferry was between 300 and 450. So they were doubling the capacity in February, and now they're putting it back where it was, which is not great for our opportunity to grow tourism when we don't have the ferry capacity. So if tourists do start showing up next year, we're still going to have a ferry bottleneck unless BC Ferries adds another crew member. Anyway, that's the bottom line on the ferry right now. June 18th, we will have a new boat and 2 less crew members because it doesn't need as many people. So a little bit of job loss maybe, but there we go.
Yeah, and just on that note, I had spoken to Darren Gwinnett at Vancouver Island Economic Alliance Summit, and at that time they were assured us that we would get the increased capacity. Now we do have COVID, but the last time I talked to him, he said if they increased the capacity and then knocked it down to 50%, it would still be more than what they're allowed right now. So it's sounding, Councillor Mitchell, like they're keeping the capacity the same. So moving forward, especially post-COVID, I think it's something we really need to keep our eye on as a council, because all over the place we were assured that we would get increased capacity, and it doesn't sound like that's happening. Exactly what we feared has occurred. So definitely something I'll keep in touch with you, Councillor Mitchell, and something that I would imagine the Ferry Advisory Committee is going to stay on top of.
we'll be talking about it, and I think it's important. That's why I wanted to bring it up, that we need to maybe think who we want to apply pressure to get this changed, because wow, how are we going to grow our tourism if we can't move people around?
Yeah, agreed. Councillor Cole?
Councilor Mitchell, can I ask you a question? The capacity issue, do you get a feeling they're fairly nimble on that? If all of a sudden it's a busy weekend, they could just throw in another person, or does it need to be, it's not that simple?
Well, what Darren said in the letter that I got was they're going to rely on the Ferry Advisory Committee to let them know when there's events going on where they should add crew, because there'll be extra requirements. And basically, it's not the way you run a business. And we need to have the capacity during the tourist season, period. Not on a sort of demand basis. Because
That
by the
was
time the
way in
demand
past,
hits,
and it didn't always work, yeah.
people are being
Councillor
left
Mitchell,
behind.
Would you be able to forward that letter from Darren Gwinnett to the rest of us, so that if we're in various different meetings and things and happen to bump into the transportation minister or somebody noteworthy, that we can,
I will do that as soon as I get out of this meeting.
okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions? Good, okay, thank you very much for that, appreciate it. There are no items from in camera to be made public, but I do need a motion to go in camera under section 91C, labor relations and other employee relations. Move from, okay, Councillor Barron, seconder. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, opposed, carried. Questions from, we don't have any public, we have one media. Is there a question under the chat box, I think? You're gonna have to read it out because they didn't bring the right glasses.
Is it possible you could send me a recording tomorrow morning of tonight's meeting? I'm still unable to get reliable feed on audio, so unable to do any stories.
Yes.
You just left the meeting?
He was already gone.
Oh, okay.
I'll
We'll get
text
that.
him later.
Okay. Motion to adjourn the meeting and go in camera. Seconded, on favor, opposed, carried. You will have the link sent to you for the next meeting. Okay, 5-minute break.